24 different people, all claiming to live inside one man, a gentle Englishman, a hard-edged Yugoslav communist, a teenage girl who just wanted to be loved, an escape artist, and a manipulator. In the late 1970s, one man on an Ohio campus became the center of a legal and psychiatric storm. Some called him a medical miracle. Others called him a con artist who got away with rape and robbery. This is the story of Billy Milligan and his 24 faces. He was born February 14, 1955, in Miami Beach, Florida. On paper, that looks ordinary enough. In reality, his early life was anything but. His childhood was marked by instability and abuse. His mother moved the family to Ohio, and eventually married a man named Chalmer Milligan, who adopted Billy and his siblings. Behind closed doors, Billy later alleged years of severe physical and sexual abuse, the kind of trauma that can shatter a child's sense of self. Psychologists would later argue that this is where it began. Not the crimes, but the splitting. In order to survive, parts of Billy's mind stepped in and took over. As a teenager, he was already drifting. Petty theft, truancy, trouble fitting in. People around him didn't see 24 personalities. They just saw a kid who couldn't stay out of trouble. But in Billy's own account, and in later psychiatric reports, some of those other selves were already present. A little girl named Christine, who would take on the fear. A partially deaf boy named Sean, and a nameless, no-name boy who held the deepest pain. The outside world saw one teenager. Inside, the room was already crowded. By 1977, Billy Milligan was in his early 20s and living near Ohio State University. On campus, a series of attacks terrified students. Several women were kidnapped at gunpoint, robbed, and raped. Police combed the campus. Fingerprints, eyewitness reports, and other evidence eventually led them to one man, Billy Milligan. He was arrested and charged with multiple counts of aggravated rape and armed robbery. The press gave him a nickname, the campus rapist. But once psychiatrists started talking to him, they claimed they weren't always talking to Billy. During psychiatric evaluations, Billy's behavior seemed to flip without warning. His voice changed, his posture changed, even his handwriting changed. Doctors began documenting distinct personalities. Arthur, a prim, proper Englishman, obsessed with science and rules. Dragan Vadaskovic, a self-described Yugoslav communist, strong, aggressive, and supposedly responsible for armed robberies. Alan, a smooth talker and manipulator who handled social situations. Tommy, an escape artist and electronics whiz. Adelana, a shy 19-year-old lesbian who cooked for the group and, according to Billy's defense, committed the campus rapes. Over time, professionals claimed to identify 10 prominent personalities, and later, 14 more, for a total of 24. Some were considered good people. Others, undesirables, the ones that caused chaos. The question wasn't just who Billy was. It was, which of them committed the crimes? Billy's lawyers made a move no American defense team had successfully pulled off before. They argued that he wasn't guilty because he hadn't committed the crimes. According to them, it was Reagan who handled the robberies and Adelana who assaulted the women. Psychiatrists testified that he had dissociative identity disorder, then often called multiple personality disorder, and that when one of the alters was in control, Billy himself had no memory of what happened. The jury was faced with a brutal question. If a crime is committed by one personality, can you imprison the others? In a landmark decision, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed not to prison, but to secure psychiatric hospitals. Some saw justice, others saw a dangerous precedent. For years, Billy moved through a series of mental hospitals across Ohio. During that time, doctors tried to fuse his personalities into a single, stable self. Success was questionable. Inside, though, something else emerged. Billy the artist. He painted landscapes, surreal scenes, and portraits of people connected to his case lawyers, doctors, and figures from his fractured inner world. Some accounts say different personalities claimed ownership of different paintings. Art became a way to organize the chaos, or at least to give it shape. But outside the hospital walls, people were still asking, Had the system just let a rapist escape prison? In 1986, Billy Milligan escaped from a mental facility. He lived under the alias Christopher Carr, drifting through different states, eventually ending up in the Pacific Northwest before authorities caught up with him again. Later, reporting and documentary work have linked Billy, at least by suspicion, to 2 unsolved murders during his periods of freedom. Some people close to him claimed he had confessed to at least 1 killing late in life, but those allegations were never proven in court. What's clear is this: whether in a cell, a ward, or on the run, the question of who Billy really was never stopped haunting people. Billy's story exploded beyond courtrooms and hospitals. Writer Daniel Keyes, already famous for Flowers for Algernon, interviewed Billy extensively and published The Minds of Billy Milligan in 1981, turning the case into a global talking point. For years, Hollywood circled the story. Directors like James Cameron and actors like Leonardo DiCaprio were attached to unmade projects. More recently, the case helped inspire series like The Crowded Room and the Netflix docuseries Monsters Inside. The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. Every retelling puts a different spin on the same puzzle. Was this a story of a man tormented by trauma and mental illness, or a master manipulator who exploited a diagnosis? Dissociative identity disorder, or DID, is still controversial. Clinicians describe it as a coping mechanism. When trauma is unbearable, the mind creates separate identity states to hold it. These alters can have different memories, preferences, even handwriting. Critics argue that cases like Billy's are overdiagnosed or even shaped, consciously or not, by therapists, media, and legal incentives. In Billy's case, you have real victims whose lives were shattered, a man with a documented history of trauma and mental instability, and a legal system trying to decide whether punishment or treatment, or both, was the right answer. There is no neat ending that satisfies everyone. Billy Milligan died in 2014 in Columbus, Ohio, reportedly from cancer, after years spent mostly out of the public eye. He left behind victims still living with what happened, family members carrying their own scars, and a case file that continues to divide experts. To some, he remains the ultimate DID case study. To others, the man who gamed the system. Maybe the most disturbing part of Billy Milligan's story is not whether he had 24 personalities. It's that even if he did, the pain in this story is very real, and so are the people who suffered because of it. In the end, you're left with a question. When a mind shatters, where does justice end and mercy begin? Come back for more chills, haunts, murder, and mystery. Share this video with family and friends. Please like and subscribe.